That's fantabulous. Fantabulous. Oh, Alice Davie. Hey, fams. Yeah. Representing the hope of the future. Hope for the future. Embodied in Alice Davie. Indeed. Uh-oh. Whoa. Whoa. All the signs are there, people. It's Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. The day that time forgot. That's right. Monica Holberstadt. Poetry break. Poetry break. Poetry break. Poetry break. Oh. Poetry. Fire. Hi. Hi there. Hi there. Hey there, poetry mavens. I am your... What am I? I don't know. Two shots? Lori Two Shots, I know. I was supposed to say the day Bill takes two shots, but I did that last week. Besides, two shots has become three shots. Now we have the original Lori Trout Commemorative Country Music Hall of Fame shot glass. Then we had the new edition, the Nashville Music City pewter shot glass that we introduced a week or so ago. And I noticed when I was looking at this shot glass that there's nothing but electric guitars, one lone banjo, and the rest, as far as I can see, ladies and gentlemen, are electric instruments. And I was kind of like, country music with no acoustic guitar, just electric guitars and banjo? I don't think so, people. Well, somebody out there, and I think it was Lori, solved that problem for us by sending the solo acoustic guitar, the close-up, full neck, sound hole, 6-string situation, and even the odd poor man's multicolored end pins. How many guitar players out there have had the one miscolored end pin in their acoustic guitar at one point in their life? Yes, I am part of that illustrious company. Now, Lori Trout, did you send this one too? Because for some reason, the packaging has completely disappeared. I didn't see a note. I didn't see anything to indicate where this latest addition to the shot glass collection came in. But I do have to say, I know I was saying more shot glasses, but I think I've realized through experience that two shots is really about my limit. So this one, the original, has what I call the... that was you? Okay. All right. I get it. See, Monica, other first student people, Cindy Snyder, Lori Trout, still trying to corrupt me, even after all this time has passed. Still trying. But I have to say that this one it becomes the Janine Boggs commemorative chaser with some lime juice and water. So this will be the chaser for these lovely shots, which are moments away. In the meantime, mystery beverage. Thanks, Ma. As always, here we are. I got to tell you, the mailbag is chock-a-block, ladies and gentlemen. I must have said something in reference to our email address here, poetrybreak22@gmail.com, because we did get responses. Some from real local here, some from farther afield, and so we're diving right into that. Old manhood. Somebody else is going to take care of that for us. If you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to start with a poem that was posted on the Westminster Basement Study Group page by one Colette Marie. Right, and the hand actually forwarded this on to me. I had not seen it. I don't, other than on Tuesday evenings. And a couple of times during the week, I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be. There's Mary Pekka. Happy Tuesday to you, Mary Pekka. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. And Lori Trout, thank you. Thank you. Although I may not be able to fulfill the vision, the mission of the three shots. Chef Steve, how you doing? Because I'm an old geezer who's got limited alcoholic bandwidth at this time, I do still appreciate. And we can rotate them in. We can, so keep them coming. Keep them coming. Okay, this is a Maggie Smith poem that Colette posted, and it's called First Fall. First Fall. I'm your guide here. In the evening dark morning streets, I point and name. Look, the sycamores, their mottled paint-by-number bark. Look, the leaves rusting and crisping at the edges. I walk through Schiller Park with you on my chest. Stars smolder well into daylight. Look, the pond, the ducks, the dogs paddling after their prized sticks. Fall is when the only things you know, because I've named them, begin to end. Soon, I'll have another season to offer you. Frost soft on the window and a porthole side here, ice sleeving the bare gray branches. The first time you see something die, you won't know it might come back. I'm desperate for you to love the world because I brought you here. First Fall, that's called, by Maggie Smith. I believe I ordered a Maggie Smith book this week. Kim Nelson, Finn Livingston, yes. Katrina Knight is in the house. Holly Trout Cooper is here. Yeah, I love it. That's deserving of a shot, I think. So the Lori Trout commemorative shots, I'm going to send this out to Katrina and to Holly Trout Cooper, Finn Livingston, Jeff Steve, and, of course, to the Lame Cat Ranchers and to Lori Trout, the giver of the shots. Although she didn't purchase the booze. Yeah. Next time she'll have to send a bottle. She's down there in Tennessee, for gosh sakes. Yo! That's a good chaser. Yeah. Whoa. Chaser almost bit me harder than the... It's rye whiskey tonight. Rye whiskey. Rye whiskey. What's the name of that song? It's by the Punch Brothers. Chris Thiele and his people do a song about rye whiskey. Yes, indeed. Yeah, but there's only 2 of them that have actual alcohol in them, Holly. This one is the Chaser. I was explaining earlier that the 2 shots are really my limit. Okay, so don't worry. Your old husband isn't becoming an alky here. Before you realize, I'm going to read that one more time. First Fall by Maggie Smith, because the first time through you kind of get what's happening here. First Fall. I'm your guide here. In the evening dark morning streets, I point and name. Look, the sycamores, their mottled paint-by-number bark. Look, the leaves rusting and crisping at the edges. I walk through Schiller Park with you on my chest. Stars smolder well into daylight. Look, the pond, the ducks, the dogs paddling after their prized sticks. Fall is when the only things you know, because I've named them, begin to end. Soon, I'll have another season to offer you. Frost soft on the window and a porthole side here, ice sleeving the bare gray branches. The first time you see something die, you won't know it might come back. I'm desperate for you to love the world because I brought you here. First Fall by Maggie Smith. Thanks to Colette Marie for posting that, and to the hand for passing it on to me, who doesn't look where he should that often. He looks where he shouldn't probably more often than he looks where he should. Right, Ma? She knows. She's known me longer than most anybody else. My mom. Okay, now we're gonna take a big bite out of Walt Whitman here, because the hand. Excuse me. Whew, that chaser is kind of strong. I might need to water that down a little bit. Ooh, yeah, baby. It's lime juice and water, Holly. Lime juice and water. That's all. That's all. So, Old Age, this is called, and I don't remember, what's the website that this came from? I didn't get the, in the words of waltwhitman.com, this came from. Diane was guided to this spot and found this nugget, and sent it on, and it's a sizable nugget. So buckle up. But this will happen where old manhood would normally happen. It's not that I haven't been writing, but my writing has been what is it? Reflections on familial relations and not for public consumption. It's some people might call it dirty laundry. I would just call it, trying to keep a respectful distance. Someday you'll have to get the book. When the Old Manhood book comes out, it'll probably be in there. Old Age by Walt Whitman. Having gone a year or two past 60, a man reaches a viaduct called the turn in life, which, if crossed in safety, leads to the valley of old age. I shall range upon the high plateau of my life and capacity for a few years, and then swiftly descend. In youth and maturity, poems are charged with sunshine and varied pomp of day, but as the soul more and more takes precedence, the sensuous still included, the dusk becomes the poet's atmosphere. I too have sought and ever seek the brilliant sun, and make my songs according. But as I grow old, alone, sick, weak down, melted, worn with sweat, the half-lights of evening are far more to me, and now I chant old age. Listen, and the old will speak a chronicle for the young. Ah, youth, thou art one day coming to be old too. For an hour dream thyself old. Realize in thy thoughts and consciousness that vigor and strength are subdued in thy sinews, that the color of the shroud is likened to thy very hairs, that all those leaping desires, luxurious hopes, beautiful aspirations, and proud confidences of thy younger life have long been buried, a funeral for the better part of thee, in that grave which must soon close over thy tottering limbs. I sit writing here in sickness, poverty, and old age. The late years, palsied, old, shorn, and shellfish condition of me, much like some hard-cased, dilapidated, grim, ancient shellfish, or time-banged conch. The slower, fainter ticking of the clock is in me. I have been growing feebler quite rapidly for a year, failing more and more each successive season, and now can't walk around hardly from one room to the next, the paralysis never lifting entirely. My eyes plainly warn me they are dimming. I easily tire, am very clumsy, cannot walk far. My lassitude is one of the worst points of my condition. Being kept indoor for most 9 months begins to tell on me. As the time draws nigh, glooming, a cloud, a dread beyond of I know not what darkens me. Not my least burden is that dullness of the years, puerilities, ungracious glooms, aches, lethargy, constipation, whimpering ennui may filter in my daily songs. As some old broken soldier after a long, hot, wearying march, or haply after battle, the body wrecked, old, poor, and paralyzed, the strange inertia falling pall-like round me. Today at twilight, hobbling, answering company roll call, here with vital voice. One has to obey orders, and do duty, and face the music till he gets formal dismissal, and may as well come up to the scratch smiling. Think not we give out yet, the jocund heart yet beating in my breast, while the heart pants life glows, the burning fires down in my sluggish blood not yet extinct. The embers left from earlier fires shall duly flame again. To get the final lilt of songs, to penetrate the inmost lore of poets, to diagnose the shifting delicate tints of love and pride and doubt, to truly understand, to encompass these, the last keen faculty and entrance price, old age, and what it brings from all its past experiences. The rarest and most blessed quality of transcendent noble poetry, as of law, and of the profoundest wisdom and aestheticism, is from sane, completed, vital, capable old age. a sort of matured, superb, almost divine, invisible magnetism, dissolving and embracing all. Not summer's zones alone, not chance of youth, or south's warm tides alone, but even the profoundest chill, as now, the cumulus of years, old age landlocked within its wintered bay, cold, cold, oh cold, held by sluggish flows, packed in the northern ice, the body sluggish, aged, cold, the light in the eye grown cold and dim, these snowy hairs, my feeble arm, my frozen feet, a torpid pulse, a brain unnerved, these with gay heart I also sing. Forth from these snowy hairs, keep up yet the lilt. You lingering sparse leaves of me on winter-nearing boughs, you tokens diminute and torn, diminute and lorn, not now the flush of May or July clover bloom, no grain of August now, yet my soul dearest leaves confirming all the rest, the faithful, the hardiest, last. Haply for some sunny day, who knows, some future spring, some summer, bursting forth to verdant leaves or sheltering shade, to nourishing fruit, to fresh, free, open air, and love and faith, like scented roses blooming. Though we are not now that strength which old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. The same old man and soul, the same old aspirations, and the same content. The main things are a pretty good, heart and stalwart genesis, constitution, these the main factors. Old as I am, my spirits are first rate. Somewhere within this gray, blurred old shell, good spirits and primal buoyant center pulses down there deep. I believe I have it in me perennially, anyhow. I am satisfied and comfortable, and often bless the Lord that things are as well with me as they are, for they might be much worse. I have myself for company, such as it is, anyhow. I retain my mentality intact, unimpaired absolutely, with about the same mentality as ever. I get along sort of comfortable, in good heart and good spirits invariably. The passing hours are so sunny fine. I feel today almost a part of some frolicsome wave, or some sporting yet like a kid or kitten. Reader, you must allow a little fun here. Youth, large, lusty, loving, youth full of grace, force, fascination. Do you know that old age may come after you with equal grace, force, fascination? Who are the groups of old men going slowly? 3 old men slowly pass, followed by 3 others, and they by 3 others. They are beautiful. The one in the middle of each group holds his companions by the hand as they walk. They give out perfume wherever they walk. The admirable sight of the perfect old man, over 80 years old, a man of wonderful vigor, calmness, beauty of person, whose life has been magnificently developed, the wildest and most exuberant joy, the utterance of hope and floods of anticipation, faith in whatever happens, but all enfolded in joy, 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 when underlies and overtops whole effusion. When he went with his 5 sons and many grandsons to hunt or fish, you would pick him out as the most beautiful and vigorous of the gang. You would wish long and long to be with him. You would wish to sit by him, and you and he might touch each other. Or the perfect old woman, gentle old face, and the silver hair so smoothly folded. What a calm, serene bearing. How graceful she looks in her old age. I am more than 80 years of age. I am the most venerable mother. How clear is my mind. How all people draw nigh to me. What beauty is that descends upon me and rises out of me. What attractions are these beyond the attraction of my youth? O ripened joy of womanhood. O happiness at last. As life wanes and all the turbulent passions calm, I take on the usual privilege of years, to go slow, to be less vehement, to trust more to quiet, to composure, as softness, fullness, rest suffuse the frame like fresher, balmier air, as the days take on a mellower light, and the apple at last hangs really finished and indolent ripe on the tree. Then, for the teeming, quietest, happiest days of all, the brooding and blissful halcyon days, natural happiness, love, friendship, the undiminished faith, the groups of loving friends. Oh, the old manhood of me, old age superbly rising, my noblest joy of all, my largeness, calmness, majesty, out of the long stretch of my life to old age. I see you, the estuary that enlarges and spreads itself grandly as it pours in the great sea, calm, expanded, broad with the haughty breadth of the universe, and the approach of, but I must not say it yet. Walty. Uncle Walt. Old age. Thank you to the hand for that one. Yeah. I'm not going to reread that. Hey, there's John Gorski. Welcome, John. John sent a poem this week. He said, "Hi, Bill. Here is a Leonard Cohen poem he wrote for Abraham Klein, one of his teachers at McGill. Upon receiving and becoming familiar with details of the Holocaust in the early 50s, Klein suffered a nervous breakdown." Thank you for this one, John. Leonard Cohen. This is called To a Teacher, dedicated to A.M. Klein, 1909-1972, by Leonard Cohen. It's from the book Spice Box of the Earth. Hurt once and for all into silence, a long pain ending without a song to prove it. Who could stand beside you so close to Eden, when you glinted in every eye the held high razor, shivering every ram and sun? And now the silent loony bin, where the shadows live in the rafters like day-weary bats, until the turning mind, a radar signal, lures them to exaggerate mountain size on the white stone wall, your tiny limp. How can I leave you in such a house? Are there no more saints and wizards to praise their way with pupils? No more evil to stun with the slap of a wet red tongue? Did you confuse the Messiah in the mirror and rest because he had finally come? Let me cry help beside you, teacher. I have entered under this roof as fearlessly as an honored son enters his father's house. That deserves a rereading, huh? To a Teacher, dedicated to A.M. Klein. Hurt once and for all into silence, a long pain ending without a song to prove it. Who could stand beside you so close to Eden, when you glinted in every eye the held high razor, shivering every ram and sun? And now the silent loony bin, where the shadows live in the rafters like day-weary bats, until the turning mind, a radar signal, lures them to exaggerate mountain size on the white stone wall, your tiny limp. How can I leave you in such a house? Are there no more saints and wizards to praise their way with pupils? No more evil to stun with the slap of a wet red tongue? Did you confuse the Messiah in the mirror and rest because he had finally come? Let me cry help beside you, teacher. Let me cry help beside you, teacher. I have entered under this roof as fearlessly as an honored son enters his father's house. Leonard Cohen. Thank you, John Gorski, for that one. I appreciate it, sir. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. It's like the whole room is vibrating with the kind of... It's the hand, ladies and gentlemen. The hand is here. Oh, springtime freshness from the hand. Sorry. It's a hand. The hand. What do we got here? Jeff Steve would like to hear some Jack Kerouac, if he is considered a poet. Well, Jeff, what you got to do is you got to look some Jack up and send it on to me. I got quite a rack of Jack over here in the poetry shelf, so just his poetry. What do I got over here? Wait a minute, where'd he go? I have to tell you, folks, I rearranged my poetry shelves this week to make room for more. The poetry shelves have now expanded back to that bookcase back there. That's where the end of the alphabet is. So 1, 2, and that one over there is the same size as this one over here. And then 3 to make room for more. So Jack, I've got, what do I got? I got Mexico, I got Book of Blues, I got Mexico City Blues, I got Scattered Poems, I got the Scripture of the Golden Eternity, I got Book of Sketches, I got Poems All Sizes. So, where did I begin? No Jack tonight, but Jeff, good call. I got this much Jack poetry. So there ought to be something in there worth reading, huh? I might read Desolation Blues. I love that one. Because that's from when he was on Desolation Peak in the North Cascades, right up here by where I live. Right up that way. And kind of that way, actually. Kind of right towards this guy. If you went right into this guy's nose, right there. That's where Jack was. Up there on Desolation Peak. Thanks, Jeff. Jack will definitely be here. Alice is here. Annie and Robert. Thanks, you guys, for making it. They've been doing... Well, I thought you had Zumba, or you were doing some kind of a thing. I thought there was some kind of a class. There's Tim Vernon. Wow. Shelley. Is it Posis? Shelley's here. And Tim Vernon. Wow, that's great. And John Gorski. Interesting. So it's great to see those people. Janine Boggs. So Janine, Annie, and Robert, they're cousins of mine. Julie Powell, too. Bill Woolham is here. Bridget Lacey is here. Finn Livingston's in the house. Cindy Clark, Cindy Snyder, Holly Trout, Kim Nelson, Jeff Steve, Connie Seliska's back. Connie's back. Hi, Connie. How you doing? John Gorski, Kim Nelson and the Feline Overlords. Wow, is that a band? Did you form a band, Kim? Kim Nelson and the Feline Overlords. That's a great band name. Then we got Rick Lewis. We got Monica Holverstadt, Mary Peckham, Mark Kenney, Lori Trout, Kelly Murphy. Right on. Katrina Knight. Holly Trout Cooper. Oh, yeah. That's just too cool. Anyway, where did we leave off here? We got some Mark Kenney, Mr. Reliable. Is going to finish out the mailbag this week. And I'm going to move on to some other cool stuff. Okay? So, Mark said this. One of the more formative writers I have loved for a very long time is Annie Dillard, a name I'm sure many of us are familiar with. She has some inventive poetry that is worth sharing, though to pick one is to ignore so much else. Here's a short one. You got to pick one. Jeff, you got to pick a Kerouac. Throw it at me. But I might read Desolation Blues because it's a fairly short sequence, and I'm a lover of that. I should show you that book. Hang on. I got to show you this. Where is it? See, I just rearranged all my books, so... I gotta share this with you. This is one of the coolest books I've ever found. Written by a guy named John Suter. It's called Poets on the Peaks. And it's all about Gary Snyder, Philip Whalen, Jack Kerouac in the North Cascades. All three of those poets spent time as lookouts in the North Cascades. And this is a great book, full of photos, full of history of that time, not just of their time on Desolation Peaks, but what else they were doing. It's an amazing book. I wish there was a version that wasn't a tabletop book, but I'm glad that it is, because you get stuff like this. There's Kerouac up top. There's Gary Snyder looking off a cliff there, and there's Philip Whalen standing in the doorway. I can't remember which one he was at. Anyway, Gary Snyder spent time at Sourdough Mountain Lookout. Kerouac was at Desolation. I can't remember where Philip Whalen was. Anyway, what a digression. Yeah, we were talking about Mark Kenney, weren't we? So he sent the Annie Dillard poem called I Lure Sleep. I lure sleep. I bait sleep with my white throat. I pretend to be asleep. Then everything happens at once. Sleep wraps me round in his dim coat. I weep. You leap from your corner and dance. It's from a quatrain of the body's sleep. I'm going to read it again. I lure sleep. I lure sleep. I bait sleep with my white throat. I pretend to be asleep. Then everything happens at once. Sleep wraps me round in his dim coat. I weep. You leap from your corner and dance. Yeah, baby. And then Mark says this, the second offering is my ode to fall and autumn. After days and days of the hard heat of August, then often comes a sodding rain and a cleansing breeze, whereupon I would find the after images of all kinds of species of leaves burned into the pavement on all my walking paths round my campus, the leaves having blown away, and in their place these strange burnt images, in themselves so marvelous, yet each evoked a wistful sadness within me. I could find all sorts of shapes and creatures in these images, a veritable panoply of characters and stories would often emerge, words and thoughts tumbling around in my mind as I walked. And he included a photo of some of these images. Mark's serious about this stuff, man. He's not just playing around. He's going deep. He's diving into the natural world and bringing home souvenirs to show to the rest of us. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. So, with that poetic introduction, here's his poem called One Last Act. The sultry summer breezes turn brisk, whining and whistling about nothing in particular. Sunlight once overbearing merely casts a sidelong glance at the earthly fruits of summer's toil. All summer's gift of promise, rainbow-hued and luscious, vibrant leafy canopies enveloping, now wane and wither on the naked branch. Once bright and blushing, sodden and full of green ambition, all are fallen, bruised and broken, likely soon to burn or to be eaten or slowly molt, brown and rotting, enriching that from whence they came. The leaves of autumn lay crisp, light, and sure in their purpose, like haughty Christian soldiers, unquestioning, unstoppable, still strong against the wind. Somehow their passing is unremarkable. Tempest-tossed, flooding field and sky in a blizzard of biblical proportion, they soon softly join their brethren amongst Eden's grass and gardens in repose. Some, in silent, godless protest, lay slowly dying against rock and stone, on which sunlight burns a brown and somber final testament, a last vigorous act of will, a small remembrance of their summer sky-born beauty amongst the cathedrals of the sun. And those images look like that. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Reliable. Huh? Pretty rich mailbag, huh? Jeez. Crazy. I'm a little embarrassed that there's no old manhood this week. But like I said, it's not because I didn't write. Oh, I've been a-writing, friends. I've been a-writing. But it's given me a chance to explore some of the poets that have just crossed briefly through, like Lynn Ungar. Yeah, Lynn Ungar. She's all over the place. Lynn Ungar lives in San Francisco Bay Area with her wife, teenage daughter, 2 dogs, and 2 cats. Yeah. She is a minister for the Church of the Larger Fellowship, an online Unitarian Universalist church. Lynn Ungar. She is a minister as well as a poet. And she's got a great poem about fall coming up right after shot numero dos. See if I time that right. The effect will kick in right about the time we sign off. Oop. There we go. Autumn Equinox, this is called, by Lynn Ungar. Get to know her. She's, I don't know how to describe her, but she's devotional. Yeah. In kind of a Mary Oliver-ish kind of way. But a little more, maybe. I don't know, I've read a total of 6 poems from this book. This is called Autumn Equinox. You may think of it as marking the long descent, the slide into winter's weariness. Such moments are not easy to accept. Don't we all want to petition some cosmic governor to grant summer a reprieve? But the sentence is always cast. The scales will always tip, whatever you might think is just. In this brief, breath-catching moment at the top, you may recall the slow climb of summer, the safe, steady ticking up the tracks. The self-possessed might even gaze out and glimpse the jostling fairgrounds and the quiet that stretches beyond the fence. Look quickly. Even now the car tips forward and picks up speed. As the wind in your face increases and your stomach leaps, remember, this is the ride you came for. The fear and the sense of flying. Winter won't seem long when you slide to a halt around the final curve. I just think that's wonderful, especially when you get to this is the ride you came for. Let's read it again. Autumn Equinox by Lynn Ungar. That's Ungar. She's got some videos up on YouTube too. Lynnungar, Lynn Ungar. You may think of it as marking the long descent, the slide into winter's weariness. Such moments are not easy to accept. Don't we all want to petition some cosmic governor to grant summer a reprieve? But the sentence is always cast. The scales will always tip, whatever you might think is just. In this brief, breath-catching moment at the top, you may recall the slow climb of summer, the safe, steady ticking up the tracks. The self-possessed might even gaze out and glimpse the jostling fairgrounds and the quiet that stretches beyond the fence. Look quickly. Even now the car tips forward and picks up speed. As the wind in your face increases and your stomach leaps, remember, this is the ride you came for, the fear and the sense of flying. Winter won't seem long when you slide to a halt around the final curve. I just think that's just, simple, straightforward, and easily accessible, and just, yes, we signed up for this, right? if this is the only life, then we better just milk it, baby. Right? Right, Shelley? Heidi Muller. Hey, Heidi. Linda Rosales. Hey, Linda. Who else we got? I'm going to just scroll just a little ways. Don't give me a hard time now. Kelly, there's Kelly Murphy. Hey, man. Going to be doing a gig with Kelly Murphy coming up October 21st at the Couth Buzzard Bookstore in Greenwood with also with Mike Buckman, who's the guy who organized this and asked me to do it. Steve Norris also, who's just a great, great interpreter. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. First time I'm going to be in front of a live audience, I'm probably going to be a basket case. You know, I've been looking at myself for the last couple of 3 years, you know, since March of 2020. It's just been me talking to me, except for the nice little scrolling over here and the little flying hearts and thumbs and things like that. Yeah, it's going to be weird being in front of people again, but I think it'll be quite enervating. Better look that up. One more from Lynn Ungar, then we're going to move on. This is called Masks. What will you wear for Halloween? The trees are changing faces, and the rough chins of chestnut burrs grimace and break to show their sleek brown centers. The hills have lost their mask of green and grain, settled into a firmer geometry of uncolored line and curve. Which face will you say is true, the luminous trees or the branches underneath? The green husks of walnuts, the shell within, or the nut curled intimately inside, sheltered like a brain within its casing? Be careful with what you know. Be careful with what you know, with what you think you see. Moment by moment, faces shift, masks lift and fall again, repainted to a different scene. It means, the cynics say, there is no truth, no constant to give order to the great equation. Meanwhile, the trees, leaf by leaf, are telling stories inevitably true. Green, gold, vermilion, brown, the lace of veins remaining as each cell returns to soil. You see this Lynn Ungar. She's got the density. She's got, she's got a great sense of rhythm, but she also just, I don't know. She makes it plain. Maybe because she's a minister, she's used to having to make her words understandable to a wide swath of different kinds of people. I don't know. Never been a minister, although I considered it for a while when I was an adolescent. Masks. I'll read it once more. What will you wear for Halloween? The trees are changing faces, and the rough chins of chestnut burrs grimace and break to show their sleek brown centers. The hills have lost their mask of green and grain, settled into a firmer geometry of uncolored line and curve. Which face will you say is true, the luminous trees or the branches underneath? The green husks of walnuts, the shell within, or the nut curled intimately inside, sheltered like a brain within its casing? Be careful with what you know, with what you think you see. Moment by moment faces shift, masks lift and fall again, repainted to a different scene. It means, the cynics say, there is no truth, no constant to give order to the great equation. Meanwhile, the trees, leaf by leaf, are telling stories inevitably true. Green, gold, vermilion, brown, the lace of veins remaining as each cell returns to soil. Lynn Ungar. It's called Bread and Other Miracles. She's also got a poem called Blessing the Bread, or a book called Blessing the Bread. Lynn Ungar, look her up. She deserves our support. Oh my goodness. And I'd never heard of her until the poetry break. Somebody Who was it? I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. But much like that, Dick Allen. Dick Allen, who I think we came across in one of the anthologies. I don't know if it was Impermanence, Mindfulness, and Joy, or one of the on staying happy, being alive, staying human, whatever. I've got 4 of those anthologies up there now. That's one of the reasons I had to rearrange my poetry books. I had to make more room on the shelves because I'm putting all the anthologies first, right? So we've got the Donald Allen anthology is always number 1. Then we've got Together in Sudden Strangeness. Remember that one that came out during the pandemic? Then we've got Impermanence, Mindfulness, and Joy. Then we've got an old anthology that doesn't even have a printing on the spine. That's got like alligator skin cover on it. Then we've got 5 Poets of the Pacific Northwest, which includes Richard Hugo and William Stafford and David Wagoner and 2 more. And then the Neil Astley 4 thick anthologies that I'm just barely cracking the surface of. But Dick Allen was in one of those, and I was up at Half Price Books the other day, offloading some books. We do that here at the Treehouse. The Hand and I, we look, we think, this one, not so much. I think we've gotten our use out of this book. Let's let somebody else have a crack at it. So we take it up to the used bookstore and we sell it, we get credit, and we bring home something that's more current. Here's what I got. I got another Kim Adonisio. This is Lucifer at the Starlight, Kim Adonisio. I also got a bigger collection of Dylan Thomas. I had the collected Dylan Thomas, but this is a much expanded. There's like 180 more poems in that one than in the collected. So, and I got Dick Allen. I think Dick Allen, well, I've never heard of this guy. He's been around. And I'm going to read some of his stuff too. This is called Triptych. Now, these are not simple. They're kind of long, but man, they're worth it. I'll tell you. Triptych. So we got 3 parts, right? Because it's a triptych, right? Triptych. 1. The lake beyond the 2 boys playing basketball does not shimmer. It's simply a gray wash below a few unfocused hills, so low and commonplace no one's yet named them, and the house in the foreground with the old Dodge up on blocks beside it isn't worth even a glance. Why enter it? Inside, the mirrors will be dusty, the furniture a few dark pieces scattered on some thin gray rugs. Nothing that would make you climb the stairs to the bedroom and back, its single window facing the lake. Beneath it, an old half-rotted picnic table salvaged from a dump, the circular clothesline in a square of ragged bushes. Yet this isn't poverty. The boys are fed sufficiently and loved. The roads you can't see joining other roads are passable, the cities at their ends. Thick airstrips leading off to Vietnam, Nicaragua hot beneath the moon. No dream. All reaches and is reached from here. Even on this day my father stands outside and lifts his Kodak, takes his undistinguished photograph of house and car and lake and bare tree branches cluttering haphazardly the white November sky. And like an afterthought, or because they happen to be there, too small and distant to be waved away, 2 boys. 2. What were his thoughts? What were my mother's thoughts outside her magazine ambitions for her son? Gray Saturdays, the radiator cat, schoolboy friends killed at Normandy, the never-ending wish and want. When the lake froze over, we'd walk a mile across it toward the dark and gutted ice house. Listen, my father would shout into a broken window. Listen, listen, listen. His voice would echo. Then, retracing our snow-crust path, we made our way out on the lake again, ice booming, and the midst of slight wind-scattered snow so gossamer we'd lift our mittened hands to part it constantly. White eyebrows and hot cocoa in the game of clue my mother always won. All reaches, all is reached from here. Chernobyl, the fattened goose-necked cloud of the Challenger. Nixon waving. Dallas. Press of fingers on computer buttons. The Chinese horns and hell gates of Korea. Hiroshima, Dresden. The eyes and ears of the world. The Holocaust. You touch my arm to bring me out of it. Dulled, dazed, approaching 60 with my hand still balancing a basketball, knees bent, my eyes sighting to the hole in space above the rim, I fire. The world arcs up. My father fires. 3. Listen, listen, listen. His voice would echo. But for what? For why? Not even a half-century has passed since I first heard him shouting in those charred wood rafters, and the booming of the ice, the fleck of snow, of dry snow scraping my boots. And one day for an hour, with my Gilbert microscope upon the picnic table, I tested the hypothesis of no snowflake shaped the same, and in that world of crystal symmetry, found such elegance and mystery, I thought I might reach God through search, not prayer. Mistake. How blurred was my belief. In the photograph, 2 edges and 1 chimney of the cottages whose lots touched ours, a section of the fence around the village's cracked tennis court, a street lamp that will soon come on. The boys will stand beneath. They'll toss the basketball, bounce pass it, dribble it until their hands are raw. No one will take their picture at this hour. Soon not even they remember what they say, passing the ball, brilliantly catching it behind their backs and whipping it away, up to the moon, up to the stars, away. When they're gone, perhaps it rains or snows. Ice freezes on every twig and branch, catching the street lamp's glow. In such a way, a web of light is spun around it until dawn. No color in the frame. November day, then night. 2 boys playing ball. I just think that is amazing. And that is Dick Allen, a poet I'd never heard of until a week or so ago. We came across one of his poems in one of those anthologies. Goodness gracious, people. I got one more for you. One more, and then we'll stop. And this is another Dick Allen, and it's even longer than the first one. But I just thought it was magnificent. A magnificent piece of autobiography, as well as great poetry. This is called The Father's Suite. And I think each section has its little title, and it's in 5 parts. No, it's in 4 parts. Sorry. So, here we go. Did you like that last one? I just thought that one was so eloquent. I mean, it just goes all over the place in rhythm and stuff, but it's just, I don't know, I just found it completely understandable, even though it was going a bunch of different directions. Wait a minute, I can't. I got to read that one. Okay, 2 more. I'm sorry, but I can only do what I can do. The Father's Suite. Part 1 is called Steady as She Goes. Steady as she goes, my father would yell, steering the boat we rented that only summer he had any money. Between the buoys and the other larger boats all around us. His bald head covered with a skipper's cap, its emblem a small gold anchor on a field of black. He'd stand at the helm, laughing for dear life. Steady as she goes, steady as she goes. The ocean he sailed us out on, I remember to this day, was calm as a silver coin near the shore, but roughened out deeper, waves melting and reforming lee and starboard, bow and aft. Beautiful, 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 he'd say. Then toward noon he'd becalm us. From an icy chest, red pop and sandwiches, their crusts meant to be torn off and thrown to any gulls at rest on the sea path. The next year, back in poverty's pit, a tenement of boarded windows, light bulbs hanging from cords, where my mother scrubbed dirt from dirt and found more dirt. He'd sit backward on his kitchen chair and, staring out at a clothesline fat with clothes, pretend with us they were sails filled with wind blows, as the blue sheets pillowed and the thin skirts spun around their hangers. Steady as she goes, he'd whisper, steady as she goes, but not sorry for himself. Don't think that, ever. I remember when everything ached in him. You could hear it in his voice and feel it in his arms, trying to hug us good night, but clutching instead. He'd still not damn the world, nor himself, nor us. Why is life so cruel? Surely it was a heart. But why's that heart so punctured and ruptured? If the brakes had gone right, but they didn't. If he hadn't had children. Out on that boat when evening started to come and the lighthouse blinked from the shore like a tiny star in a net of low-lying clouds, he'd grow so silent looking down at us, feet spread to keep his balance. It was as if his mind was lost. He'd never get us back home, but then he'd wince, abruptly shake his head from side to side, and find his voice again. I've caught myself doing the same thing lately. It's just that there's so much grief about and to deal with, beauty and grief. I can't reconcile them well. Slowly, not more than a quarter-inch over stalling speed, he'd steer us in, calling to other skippers his nautical speech, too proud to be rusty. Steady as she goes, he'd sing, to the harbor and the gas pumps and piers we passed, to the wind-bent trees in the coves, the houses and flashy cars, on the last viaduct we barely floated under before we docked. Steady as she goes, he'd say one more time, after we'd tied the ropes taut, and carefully hosed down the decks. Then grandly, sweeping his cap as he bowed like an English admiral courting a lady, he'd have our mother walk before him up the wooden ramp to the parking lot. Gladly he'd follow, gladly, and I think knowingly. He burned his money up that summer. Good day, really good day. I can still hear him saying as he drove our ripped seat Studebaker with its gray, half-worked dashboard into the city, holding an even 36 miles per hour because of, or despite, the eternally heavy traffic veering around us. Beauty and grief. Or maybe you can find some other words. Was it a foolish pose or a blend of risk and caring? Does it matter much? We kept our life here steady, steady as she goes. 2. Heart condition. You would take their side, my mother screamed at my father when the ambulance he'd finally summoned came, and she kicked and bit as they took her back from Aspinwall Drive, where she'd been trying to compel her heart attack. Oh, hush, you. We're overtime. Where she'd been trying to compel her heart attack, keep it alive on a diet of carrot sticks, and her famous willpower, tied down, sedated. 8 hours later, she died. Her heart literally burst. He'd waited and he'd cried in her hospital room, begging to her, but she never spoke to him again. Went out of this world blaming others, scorning that man who, as she'd bloated, then terribly thinned, gave up his own life to help her plan how she'd recover. She, a typical bishop, and he, a typical Allen. 3. Breath. He walked out on the prairie and he shot himself, his wife said. Brains all over, blood. I think now I'll travel. Another life, writes my father, gone with the wind, to cite Margaret Mitchell. I always liked that title. Your mother read that book from start to end, again and again. He's moved up to Idaho after her death, starting over, living close to my brother. This summer in the mountains, he found heavy snow blocking the road and backed his Jeep a mile before he could turn. He's given up trying to learn to follow her principles of good diet, proper dress, his hearing aid often turned off. He's been a good boy long enough, he says, and too often afraid. His emphysemic neighbor in the next door condominium told him he hadn't slept for 3 nights running, then kept his promise to himself to end the pain, left his nose tubes and his oxygen at home, walked out on the prairie that morning very early. The day, my father says, was a very pretty one. 4. Those who are surpassed. Their eyes are always bigger than their stomachs, my father said. That's how you can tell them. Big eyes, little thin stomachs. At the table of life, they always heap too much and never finish. Not him. His plate was always cleared. He always kept just a little room left over for dessert. Bavarian cream pies, deep, dark chocolate cakes, syrup floating up the edges of bread puddings, and smacked his lips and seemed content, while those around him groaned and nibbled with embarrassment the rich concoctions he'd planned for, with calculating visions and a loosened belt. You see, the secret's in the appetite, he said, to know what's possible and what's impractical, one taste at a time, he said, one delicious bite and savor it, and then the next. Who lived to 90, gained tremendous girth, and died without a speck of usual regret. His several books, his articles, his meals completed in a lonely condominium in Idaho, the dishes washed, and he asleep within his great armchair. I don't know, man. It's so easy to follow. I'm going to stop there. It's called The Day Before by Dick Allen. Yeah, he's gone, but he's got 5 or 6 books out there. We got to find them. People, thank you for hanging in there with me. I'm sorry I ran a little over tonight. Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? But I'm so glad that you stuck around. Looks like you've been talking amongst yourselves. Perfect. I just like reading these words. So if you want to listen to them, that's fine. If you don't, well, hey, that's your business. Right, Ma? But hey, we're going to do this again next week. September 27th will be the date. 7 p.m. Pacific time will be the time. 167 hours from now or so. Yeah, 167 hours from now. We'll be doing this once again. Okay? Bring a friend next time. And if you like this, then what you do is you take this video on Facebook. There's a little share button. Share it to your page. That way other people can see that you watched it. They might watch it too. They might come around next week, something like that. You know, we need to spread the words. I'm not looking to get rich off of this. I just want to get the words out there to more people because there is these words are like medicine. I don't know if you felt that tonight, but these words are medicine. And the world is hungry for this kind of medicine. Or maybe not the world, but, well, yeah, maybe the world. I don't know. I just know that I am hungry for it. That's it. I'm only doing this for my own benefit, as we have established earlier. Everybody have a poetic week. We'll do this again, 167 hours. I'll see you then.